everyone, welcome to Quilted Cactus. Today we are going to do a tutorial on Bloom & Needle's newest pattern called Orla. I really like this cute little bag. It's absolutely adorable. Let me show you the ones that I made. It's got great little rivet details on them. You can be creative in that, however you want to do them. I did simple on the rivet details, but here is the one that the tester bag that I did. This is all cork here, the bag. And then this is what's it called? Faux Real. It's a Tulip Bee. So it's a heavier, thicker vinyl. But the green is Faux Real. But look at that adorable little bag. It is a cute little bag. You have the option to do either like a little sew on tab, or if you want to do like the little metal end tabs, which I did that on the second bag, the one we're going to do the tutorial on. But it features a slip pocket in the back, just a nice cute little slip pocket right there. It's got a nice roomy interior on the inside for a small bag. The pattern she writes is 2 slip pockets. This particular bag, I just did 1 slip pocket, and it's just small like this, but it's this exact same size as this one. Just one nice little slip pocket, but it's a nice roomy little bag. You can easily get a phone, a wallet, and a few essentials inside the bag. Showing the zipper closure. Now on the, and then it's got a nice little detail, like the little base, and then it's got a nice detail up the side, and then you can do rivets like I did up the side. These are purely decorative. These rivets are not here to, for, stable construction purposes. It's purely decorative for the rivets as well as the front. Okay, now this is the one that we are going to do in the tutorial. I went a little different. I did almost completely solid Orla, except for the little wings there. I call them wings, except for the little side details and the piping. And yes, the bag does feature piping. Of course, if you don't want to do piping, you do not have to. But it's got a nice little, and then I opted to quilt this bag. The front and the back panels are quilted. The side is not. It's just a smooth side. And then I did, again, just a simple rivets down the side, and then 3 on each side on the front. This is Faux Real's corn. I can't think of the name. It'll be in the description. And then on the back, I opted to do a little snap on this pocket in the back. So you've just got a little pocket, and again, it's just a regular little spring snap there. Nothing fancy. And then, again, it's got the nice tight zipper closure. And then I did the little end tab, the little metal end tab on that. And then let's get this zipped up here. There we go. And then on the inside of this one, I did a little different. I do have the slip pocket. Oops, there it is. There is the slip pocket there in the bag. And then on the back, I made a zipper pocket. Again, it doesn't come with one. In the tutorial, I give you the measurements, but I decided to do a small zipper pocket in this bag. I think it's a really cute option to add a zipper pocket in the bag. So again, that measurement will be in the pattern, and then I will also put it in the description in case you don't catch it and you don't want to, fast forward back to the pattern measurement or the zipper pocket measurements. So anyways, cute little bag. Love it. Again, this is the one we're doing in the tutorial, and there you go. This is the Orla by Bloom & Needle. Go get your pattern, and then we will get right to the video tutorial. Thank you so much. Okay, so we want to go over the pieces real quick. It's not a lot of pieces in this pattern. Again, this is a nice, simple bag. It is really, really cute. It's a great size. So let's go over the pieces real quick. So we're going to have our main panels. We're going to have a front main panel. I did quilt this, and I will go over that when I get to the piece. But this is your front. You'll have the little cutouts on the side there. Your back is the full piece. There's my back panel there. You'll have your side gussets. You need 2 of those. And then you will have your base. I have it here. There it is. Your base is a really cute little tiny piece. I've got Decaville Heavy on the base. did not put purse feet on this bag. It's a small little round purse, while a couple little purse feet, like 4 little purse feet would be cute if you want it. Obviously, you can do that, but it's, I think it's just a cute little carry bag. I just didn't feel that I needed feet on this bag. You'll need a zipper tab end. This is for your main closure zipper, so if you choose to not do this and just do like the little metal end tabs, that's totally fine. You could omit that piece. You will need your strap, 2 pieces for your strap. It is done a little differently than we're used to, so I will go over that, and that's why it's not prepared prior to, because we'll go over that when we get to that point. You will need a zipper gusset. You'll need 2 exterior and 2 lining for your zipper gusset, or your zipper placket, your zipper closure part of your bag. You will need, if you choose to do piping on this bag, you will need 2 pieces for your piping. It's actually not very difficult for this particular bag on the piping. That we are going to do piping on the bag. You will need 2 lining pieces. They'll look like little half moons almost. Not quite half moons, 3/4 inch moons is basically what they look like. So these are your lining pieces. Now she writes the pattern, as I said, she writes the pattern with 2 slip pockets on the inside. I've done a little bit different on this particular bag. Instead of 2 lining pockets, I'm just going to do instead of 2 slip pockets, my apologies, she writes it with 2 slips. Instead of 2 slips, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, I know that. I'm doing 1 slip, and then I've created a small zipper pocket. I'll give you the dimensions for that when I get to that. So you need 2 pieces or 4 if you're doing 2 slips instead of 1. So that's for your slip pocket. Now the zipper pocket that I've made, my zipper pocket, you'll need 2 pieces of 7 1/4 inches by 5. So it's 7 1/4 inches wide by 5 inches long. It's just a little pocket, but it's, if you want something that you can zip some things in there that you don't necessarily want in either laying in a slip or at the bottom of your bag, this is what this is for. I kind of like that little bit of a zipper pocket. So you need 2 of those. Again, this is my pocket dimensions. It's 7 1/4 inches, the lengthwise, and 5 inches long. And I say that in case you're using dimensional fabric. You will need 1 gusset piece here. It's a full piece for your gusset. And then you'll need your upper lining, or this is the part that goes on the top of your gusset that matches your upper part of your bag. So upper lining pieces, 2 of those. You'll need your upper gusset lining, I should say, and this is upper lining pieces, 2 of those. Let's see. There is an exterior back pocket. I did choose to do that for this particular bag as well. So you'll need 1 exterior and 1 lining piece. Now I did on my tester bag, I did 2 lining pieces so you wouldn't see through it or see the lining in the bag, because sometimes I worry about seeing that lining peeking through at the bottom. But we'll go ahead and, on this particular bag, I thought we'd go ahead and do the lining piece instead of 2 exterior for the exterior slip pocket. Sorry, I'm getting my words messed up. You'll need 2 connector pieces. And I have my centers marked. So you'll want to mark your centers, and then if you want, you go ahead and get your double-sided tape on that. If you use double-sided tape to do putting your pieces to the center. And then you will need 2 of the, what are these called? It's called exterior front piece, but they are the pieces that go on the sides here to make your little around your bag. So you'll need 2 of those. Now, you can do contrasting. You can do matching. I was going to actually match everything to be this cornflower color, but when I did my piping, I thought I'd throw just a little bit of different color on the front of the bag. So you, of course, you can do it however you want it. You will not do your interfacing on your front panel until you put these pieces on. She does in the pattern have you do this part first, and then she tells you to do all of your interfacing. I went ahead and interfaced my base, my side panels, and things of that nature. That's already been got my interfacing on there, which this is Decaville Light, but of course I can't do that until I get these pieces on, and that'll be part, of course, of the tutorial. Oh, and if you do a zipper pocket, your zipper overlay. Now, my zipper overlay, if you watch many of my videos, I save zipper overlay pattern pieces. I do that because when a pattern is written and they don't have overlays in them and they're just welt pockets, welt zipper pockets, I like the overlays. So I just grab an overlay that I like, one of my favorites, whatever it matches. I didn't want anything curved on this, so I decided to do the ones that has like the little corners taken out, and I adjust it according to the size that I need. It's very hard for me to describe how I do it. I just take it, get what I want of the size, and then cut out the size, and then I just cut the corners. I just take it and opposite, lay it, and cut the corners out that way. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on that in the future. Let's see. And then, let's see, the last but not, well, let's do some hardware. Of course, you need zipper tape. Perfect, this zipper tape. I'm using black hardware and black as my accent hardware because the zipper tape matches perfectly to this cornflower. I love the way the zipper looks. So we need rivets depending on how you want to add to your bag. With the one bag I showed you, I just did 3 on the side. In her pattern, she shows a little more. She does a few extra plus, and then also along the side connectors. I'm going to do like I did my tester bag. I'm just going to do 3 on the sides here, just along there, and then I think it's 4 or 5 along my strap connectors. And I'll give you the dimensions that I use for mine. She in the pattern doesn't give you any dimensions. She just has you, be creative. I mean, the way you want. But in case you like the way I do mine, I will give you my measurements when I get to that part of the tutorial. So rivets, depending how many you use, is how many you will need. You will need 2 D-rings, 2 swivel hooks, and a slider. And because I am using vinyl for my strap instead of webbing, I have a nice wide connector or strap slider, so my vinyl will go through there because this is a thicker vinyl. This is the Faux Real, and it is a nice thick vinyl, so I need that extra moving space. All right, so let's get all of our hardware put together. Let's get all of our hardware out of the way. Now, I am going to go along the pattern, how she goes. So every step that we do will be in order of the pattern, how she does it. So we're going to start with step 1, which starts on page 7. Let's get all this out of the way. I'm going to need my little side pieces here and my front main piece. All right. So I'm going to grab that. Now, I found the best way to attach these is I go over the peaks about 1/4 of an inch over. Even though that's not our seam allowance, I can't give you the seam allowance, but I can tell you that is not the seam allowance. I still find that is the best way to make these work, is just hang on over just 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to kind of lay this down. I'm going to grab my roller. There we go, my roller. So I'm just going to make sure those little peaks just go over about 1/4 of an inch. Let's see. Well, that's 3/8. Let me make sure I'm on the right side. Yeah, just make sure you do it. So you want the straight edge, so when you flip it out, that's what you're creating. So you just got to be very careful and watch how you place your pieces. So let me go ahead and I'm going to flip this back over, and I'm just going to take it and measure out. I think maybe it's like 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch is what you want. So it stays that I'm going to put some clips there. Now the quilting, I'm going to go over that really, really quick. My quilting that I did is an inch apart. Now I was trying to come up with the really, I was going to try to do the diagonals, but I could not, based on the shape of the bag, could not come up with the way I could do it. So the best way, I thought this was still pretty the way I did it, with that arrow going up kind of. And all I did was I basically went, of course you can see where my centers are marked. I went and marked my centers. And then I went and I started with this angle here. I went 1 inch from my center here down. I did 1 inch away, as if that makes sense. So each one, there's 1 inch in between each one, and I use my Sew Line air erase pen. That is what I use to mark it. And then just went down, and I would make sure I started here at the bottom and went up and down. So I went down here, up and down. And when you're careful, when you're marking this, you can be careful and go over. But if you go over like this and touch it, just kind of erase out of the middle. Just take a wet rag and just wipe in the middle, so you know exactly where to stop. And that's how I did it. And then of course this is just straight up and down. But I followed the angle of this here is how I did my angles here. I hope that explains it. The back of it, I do already have my Decoville light behind. No, this one doesn't have it yet. I'm sorry. I lied to you. This already has my Decoville light behind my foam. Some machines may not like it. This machine can handle it. It's a heavy duty machine. It's a Juki 1541S. So it can handle the layers. My domestic would never have made it through all of those layers without skipping a stitch. I mean, it would have went through them, but I would have had skipped stitches if I would have used the Decoville light and the foam. This one doesn't have the light on it yet, only because, again, I have to put it afterwards, but I will still put my Decoville light on there to give it that nice firm structure. Okay, enough of all of that. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to lower the camera so you can see and watch my sewing instead of me. Okay, let me get my stitch length. I usually sew when I'm putting pieces together. I typically like to sew between a 3.5 and a 4. Sometimes I still sew on a 5 because all of my top stitching is done on a 5 stitch length, because I really like that look. Most of the time, sometimes I actually end up sewing on a 5 a lot of times because I always forget to go back and change my stitching. The thread I'm using, this thread is called Bluebell, and this is Saya Swag's polyester bonded thread. I just think that color goes wonderful with this Cornflower, Tulip Bee Faux Real Cornflower. I love the color of that thread. All right, let's get going. So let's go ahead and grab my threads and get them out of the way. If I can get a hold of them, there we go. And make sure I'm at the right seam allowance. There we go. And I will back stitch and sew these on. All right, so you're going to open them up and just check and see. And that looks good there. And then you're going to fold your seams behind the little wings, like that. And you're going to do your top stitching on the wings. But let me go ahead and stitch on the other wing before I change my stitch length. So we're going to go ahead again, get our other piece. I'm going to make sure it is equal lengths sticking out. Not really, it's okay. It's just this tiny slip midget off, but otherwise it looks good. So there's that. It doesn't, when if I lay it down, it looks fine. All right, so we're going to, let's see, yeah, we're going to I'm going to get my seam stitch length up. There we go. And then we're going to fold the wings out, and then take your seam allowance and put that behind the wings. Okay, now if you quilt this, I do want to say, if you quilt this, you want to make sure your foam is out of your seam allowances, especially if you have like a semi-industrial or even so much as a domestic. You want to be very careful. I can use a little bit of foam, and since I'm going to top stitch, it'll help compress some of the foam that's in the way. But otherwise, you want to cut it out, kind of do like I did, cut it out of the seam allowances a little bit. But I'm going to top stitch again right on the little wing part, and it's 1/8 of an inch away from where the fold is. Okay, so there's the one side there, and now I'm going to go do the other side. Get my strings so they don't get caught up underneath there, and I have a rat's nest under my piece. Now, if you find that it goes over just a tad bit, you can always clean those edges up. You can lay it up against the back piece, which I do when I did my my tester piece. I did lay it up against each other to make sure everything matches and they are the same pieces. Because whenever you do like piece something together and you've got like one main piece that's a whole, and then you've got pieces that's got to line up. Sometimes there's always something that goes off a little bit. I mean, that's almost inevitable. So I'm going to get my piece here, and I'm going to put these together. I'm going to match them up to make sure everything matches good. Oh, I did want to mention as well, if you quilt that, I kind of got off track. If you quilt it, you can either quilt it and then cut your piece. That's one way of doing it. Or this vinyl here, again, this is a thicker vinyl. It doesn't shrink. I don't have any issues. So I was able to cut my piece and then quilt it with no shrinkage at all. So everything looks good there. So I'm just going to trim off these little wings here. Kind of keep it lined up. Trim off the wings and make sure that's cleaned up. I'm going to go do the thing on the bottom. Trim that little guy off. And then at the top, making sure everything looks good. So let's see. It's just a tad bit, peeks up just a tad bit. So I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. I mean, that's kind of all I did. That's just going to say, it's just the way it's laid out. The way the wings are, but that's okay. The biggest part is you want to make sure everything matches out. So let me get a clip on that to hold it still while I clean this up. There we go. Again, it's just the tiniest little pieces that I had to take off. All right, so now what I'm going to do, now that I've got the wings on, I am going to take this over and fuse this piece here onto the back here, and then get that stabilized. And once that is stabilized, I will be right back, and then we will talk about placing the rivets and how you want to place the rivets and where I place mine. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. So now I've got my Decoville light on the back. typically it's going to be behind the foam, but boy, this is constructed and it works just the same. It doesn't change. It still gives that a nice, good structure on the back. All right, so now let's talk rivets. So again, you can be creative and do however you want, but I'll tell you how I do my rivets. So with the rivets, what I've done is I find the center of this piece here. So I'll fold it and get my center of, from here to here, I find my center is how I do. This is how I did my rivets. So I'm just kind of folding it, getting my center, and I'm going to use my air erase pen. I got to get the lid of it off. Get my center point. I'm just folding it like that, and then just pinching it to find the center. So I've got a center point, center mark there, and then I'm going to just go about 1/4 of an inch away from the stitching, my top stitching. So I go 1/4 inch away from the top stitching. Did I go 1/4? I'm sorry. Yes, 1/4 inch. Sorry, I had to look at my piece. So I'm going 1/4 inch away. And then I'm going to make a mark here. Like that. And then I'm going to go 1 inch away from both sides of that point there. So I'm going to take my ruler, go 1 inch down, and then 1 inch up. And what this does is this just gives me simple rivet placements. It's something simple, but it gives you a nice look. Now, you don't have to do rivets. Obviously, that's up to you how you want to do it. You could get decorative. I've seen one it was beautiful. They use star rivets along the front, and then on the sides. I mean, that was awesome. That would be fantastic. I mean, I'm here in the States, obviously, and that would be fantastic for a bag for our 250th anniversary, birthday, I should say, for United States. A bag like that with the stars and make it red, white, and blue. Oh, that would be gorgeous. But anyway, so center 1 inch away from each side, and I'm going to do that to the other side, and then I'll place my rivets. So we'll go ahead, I'll do this in fast forward motion and get all that completed, and then I'll be back once I have my rivets completed, and then I'll show you with my rivets. All right, there we go. So there's my piece. Oh, I wish I could do a better angle of this. There we go. Isn't that cute? Now, keep in mind, the rivets that were used on this particular bag were small, very small ones. I'm not sure what the diameter is. So when I went 1/4 inch away, it looks like it's a further away, only because the rivet is smaller in diameter. Whereas these are larger. So it looks like it's a little closer. So you can, if you do this way, you can, based on the diameter of your rivets, go maybe 3/8 of an inch away. So it doesn't look like it's so close to the stitching. But otherwise, it looks really, really cute. I really like that. All right. And then I do cover the backs of my rivets, even though they're smooth. I still prefer to cover them with something. It's just something that I like to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw some of this piece of this foam here that I've got, my scrap foam, and put it over that. I love this foam, and I love using it as scraps for backings. It sticks so much better than tape. This is that 1 centimeter foam. I get it off of Amazon. You can also, Laureate Wild Pony Designs, she sells it as well. She actually sells it a little cheaper, the rolls themselves. So, of course, Amazon don't charge for shipping. Of course, she has to, because she is a small business, and I totally get that. So if you want to order some of her cute hardware, I've got some of the rhinestone grommets coming. Not grommets, rhinestone D-rings. O-rings. Rhinestone O-rings coming. I can't wait to get those. I get those tomorrow, so I'm excited. So there we go. That's nice and covered. I just like the way that feels on the back of my bag against my lining. All right, so all that's done. We're going to go ahead now is draw our lining. So this is a drop-in lining. So we're going to go in here and we are going to draw in our tops of all of our exterior pieces here, our gusset pieces. We're going to go in and draw at the seam allowance that she gives you. You're going to draw your drop-in lining, and it's really pretty much where your stabilizer is, but still you want to draw it because it helps you when you do your fold down. You've got that guide. So I'm going to go ahead and draw on all of my pieces like that. We're not going to put tape on there yet. We're just right now prepping the pieces. So we've got that. So now this stabilizer piece is up just a hair. So that's why we still want to draw it. See how I got that one up just a little bit? Now this might be a little more difficult because I got foam. And what I will probably do is cut my foam down. So I'm not going to mark it right now because what I'm going to do in order to fold this down and have a nice good fold, I'm going to cut away the foam in between these little stitches. So I'm going to go in here. I'm not going to do it all right now, but I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to go in here about an inch down. A little bit, almost an inch. And go down like this and then cut out the foam like that. I'm just going to go down and cut it out. So that way when I fold this down, it's a nice good fold where I don't have that foam puffing up like on here. It's harder and the seam doesn't lay flat really well when you're trying to top stitch. It wants to pop open. So I will draw that one in a little bit once I get the foam cleared out, just like this. There's a little foam I need to clear out here. I'll clean that out. But that is the next step of creating the bag, is cleaning, is marking your drop down seams. Okay. There's a stabilizer. All right, let's go ahead and get to the crossbody strap. Now I haven't done this. I wanted to do this on the live. If you choose not to do a webbing or anything, or if you don't, you can do the traditional strap. That's completely up to you. But she does it this way. I think this is a good way because it's a long strap and you are basically helping to have a nice long strap, and then you're not it's a little different versus folding and folding. It's you're just gonna do your two pieces. Okay, and these are two different lengths. Keep that in mind. When you cut your strap, they will be two different lengths. All right, so you want to mark your centers. Okay, on both pieces, mark your centers. And then you will mark, she gives you a measurement to place on each short end, and make that mark. And that's where you're going to start your double-sided tape. So I'm going to make a mark here on each end like that. And that's where you're going to start your double-sided tape. You're not going to do it in this part of the short end. So let me go ahead and we're going to mark these up. Okay, I'll just do that piece for right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my double-sided tape down in between those two lines. And I am using 1/2 inch double-sided tape. You can do that, or you can take and do 2 rows of 1/4 inch tape, or even 1/8 inch tape, depending on what you choose to use and your machine, what it can handle. I know my domestic, when I used my domestic for a lot of my bags before I got my industrial, I used 1/8 inch tape on each long edge. Number one, I went through way more tape than I do now, and I go through a lot of tape now. I went through really a lot then because I was using 2 pieces, and because I had to make sure that it was not going to hit that double-sided tape in that machine. It just absolutely despises double-sided tape, my old machine. All right, so you got that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the other side real quick. Well, of course, we'll fast forward through that. And then once I get that done, then I'll show you the next step. Okay, now I've got both pieces, double-sided tape done. Again, they're just marked. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew together, short ends together, right sides, like that. And you're going to stitch these two pieces together like this, just this end. When I started to do it, when I did the first one, I was going to town, starting to sew the other side, and realized that, oops, you don't do that yet. I was sewing it all together and still hadn't got all the hardware on. So that's why I'm going over it in the video. So once you get, you're going to sew these together. Let me decrease my stitch length real quick. There we go. Oh, it's the different seam allowance, not where you marked it. Okay, so yeah, you're not going to sew it on the line that you marked. You're going to sew at the seam allowance. She does give you a seam allowance to use. That line is just to give you that leeway when you sew these pieces together and you don't hit that tape. Okay. Okay. They're like that. And then once you do that, let's see. And then you got your seams, open your seams up. And then what I'm going to do to keep the seams hold the seams open, I'm going to grab another piece of my 1/2-inch double-sided tape. I peel back just a tad bit of this tape here. Open my seams, and then I lay a little bit over top of that, and then flatten my seam out. Then this just holds it open, plus it gives something for that center to adhere to when I bring it to the center, because if I leave that without tape, it just wants to constantly be open, and then I feel like it makes it not look nice. And then I'm going to just snip these little peaks here, just a little bit like that. Just give it a little bit of an angle to help with bulks on the edge of this. And it's just a little bit, nothing major, like that. Just a little bit. So that's how that. So now what you're going to do, and this is going to be really hard to see. I'm going to start, let's see, where do we want to start at? I'm sorry, I'm reading, I apologize. All right, so I'm going to take the double-sided tape off one of the sides. I'm going to work one side at a time. And again, these are really long pieces, so you just kind of got to be careful. You can just maybe do the tape a little bit at a time, which I should have done a little more. I've got too much stuff on my surface here. There we go. We'll do it that way. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold these to the center line, just like we normally do. Now you can touch this line because we're not going to fold it again into each other. You can fold right up to that line. And usually I do put a clip on this where the seam's at. And that helps hold it because it does typically want to pull apart. Like that. And then I'm going to take the rest of this side and fold it in right to that line. And then I'm going to do the same for the other side of this. I'm just going to kind of hold it down to make sure it sticks. And if it sticks and it's not straight, then you got to unstick it. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go down the line, get this all done. I'm going to just actually pause it while I do this rather than going through the whole fast forward motion. Sometimes they think there's so much fast forward going on through videos. it's kind of hard to follow. So I'm going to pause it while I continue and getting this all done. And what I'm doing is I'm going through the whole length of this and fold every bit of it into the center. And then we'll stop there, and then I'll come back and then we'll go to the next step. We just want to make sure that this is all done first before we go to the next step. So I will be back once I get this all completely folded to the center, both sides, the whole length of this piece of strap here. All right, we got this done. So the reason why you don't put your tape on the ends of both short ends is because you're going to leave this open like here, but the whole length of this strap is now all folded to the center of the line. All the long edges, boop, 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 is done. And then this end is also open, okay? A very long strap, but there's a reason why it's this long. Again, I just have where I'm stitched together, I just hold those with clips because of the thickness there, and it kind of helps. Okay, so once you do that, see how it's all folded to the center. You get one of your swivel hooks. Just grab one. Do I have the right ones? Yeah, I make sure I have the right length, right width of, and then you're going to take the swivel hook and put it through one of the short ends here, making sure, of course, the hook part is on the pretty side, the non-folded side, and then the flat edge is where you've got your folded. Put that on there. And then once you put that on, then you're going to take your strap and go right sides together like this. Oof. So you're going to clip your right sides together. Again, you've got your one swivel hook on, okay? Right sides together on the other end of your short ends like that. Get these clipped. That's why you kind of leave them open like that. And then you're going to stitch this at the seam allowance that she gives you. Like that. Get my threads out of the way here. All right. Okay, so you've got those short ends stitched together just like we did the very first step we did on the strap. And then what you're going to do is I'm going to go ahead again and just snip some corners here just a little bit, just to alleviate some of that bulk. And then open your seams just like you did. And I'm going to put some more double-sided tape across that seam. Like that. And then we're going to close this up. See, it's like that right now. And then we're going to just take it and close it up completely. So you have a swivel hook, one swivel hook on, encased in this strap. The other swivel hook is still free and loose, and your slider is still off at this point. Let me get a clip here and hold this together. Just kind of work with it. This vinyl's, like I say, this vinyl's a little thicker, so it just took me an extra minute to get this all together. Okay, so now you've got one big circle like that, and your one swivel hook. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take it and put it wrong sides together, meaning you're going to have where you've got your line in the middle where you folded everything in. You're going to make sure you're going to put those sides together so everything get turned. And then where you've got your, I'm going to go ahead and take these clips off. Let me make sure. So you're going to take your swivel hook and put it down where one of the seams is. And then what you're going to do is you're going to mark. She gives you a marking. Give me a quick second. Okay, so where the swivel hook is, she gives you a line to mark where you're going to do a stopping. Well, it'll be a stopping point when you top stitch all around it. And basically what I'm trying to do is actually make where that is at, where that seam is here. I want that to be my line. Now, she doesn't say that in the pattern, but that's what I want. So that way, when I cross over it, it's kind of hidden in the top stitching. Make sure, yeah, it should work. I'm thinking out loud as I tell you. All right, so let me get my mark here. I'm just going to grab my erasing. Yeah, so that's perfect where that's at. All right, I'm going to put a clip here and hold that in place like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go along this whole piece. Now, you can put clips down along the whole piece like that, and you're going to flatten it out completely. But you're not, again, you're not, it's only going to have, but I'm going to put double-sided tape here, so that'll hold it still rather than going through and just clipping it down. So that's up to you how you want to do it. You can just clip it all the way down and hold it together. I'm just going to throw some double-sided tape in here on the wrong side, on one of my wrong sides, and hold it, and that'll hold it down and hold it still while I top stitch it. I'll show you what I'm doing here in 2 seconds. So this is where my line is, where I met my long edges together, is where I'm putting this. And I'm putting right in the center, so the top stitching will not hit it, because I'm going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch, and this stays away from that, as long as I hold it straight. It's starting to go a little crooked, so I just got to watch myself, because I'm not doing this on a real straight surface. I need to make sure that I'm not going to go over that line too. There's my end point here. Okay. I'm at the end. I'm at the end. All right. Give me a quick second. I need to get some more tape, and then I'm going to finish taping this. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now we got it top. We got a double-sided tape in the on the wrong side of my thing, just on one side, and I've got it all the way down to where the end, the fold is, where it folds down, like to that end, like that. So I'm going to remove the double-sided tape. Again, you could use clips. That is completely up to you. Obviously, double-sided tape is an expense, so you know, if you want to use clips, you can clip it. And what I'm doing is that double-sided tape just stabilizes this when I top stitch it. So you're just going to take it, place it like that, and I'm just going to untake it off, and then just continue going down until I get to the other end. Okay. Oops. I have got a mess here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm knocking clips off and everything. Okay, now I'm to the other, and I'm gonna take the clips off that I have where my other seam is. So your other seam will not, whoops, I'm doing that. I forgot to tape the tape off the piece, the new piece here. Okay. I'll show you, here are the seams in just a second. So this will be, the edge here will be a folded edge there, and then you go all the way, and I said now the seam won't go that, it kind of is hidden there, and then you've got it all completely together like this. And you've got, this is where my, where I'm gonna cross over when I do my top stitching. So I'm gonna go up, so I'm gonna start here at this end here, okay, and I'm gonna go up, all the way up, cross over here, and then go all the way down. Now you may not want to do that. You may want, if you want, you can go just above it, which also is an option rather than stitching right in the seam. The more I think about it, the more I think I'm just going to go up right above it. But I'm going to stitch with my seams on my face plate, meaning my bobbin is going to be on the bottom, and then my top stitching will be from the top of my strap will be the top thread, because typically that is always better. So I'm going to start at the very end and come up over right above that, and then go over and go straight back down in one continuous stitching. Again, I'm going to increase my top stitch. You want a top stitch length, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this stitched all the way. Now I will fast forward it through this because this you can see the actual sewing here versus tape and so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and get started here. And I will back stitch on my end here. Okay, so there we go. So there's my strap. It's completely stitched. Okay, now once this is done, then you're going to grab your slider, making sure your slider's on the right side of the strap. Let's see, what I want is to be my top. There's my top. All right, now I'm going to take my slider and then just go ahead and put it on, which you're going to take the end of the strap that doesn't have the swivel hook up and over. Like that. And I'm going to take my slider and push it down a little bit in the thing. So you want to give it a good few inches, well, more than a few, you know, go at least 12 inches to where you got your slider out, because you're going to want this free end to fish it back through. And then once you get your slider on, you're going to grab your other swivel hook, put it on this end, the free end like that. So you've got it like this is how you've got it. Let me see. You got your slider on, just one. I got it looped so you could see. You got the other swivel hook on the other end. And then remember, you still got that swivel hook over here on that piece. All right. So we're just going to deal with this end right now. You're going to take this. Once you get your swivel hook on, go under the slider like this. Feed it up. And then take the other end of this piece. I'm going to give it more space here. And then you're like that. And you're going to take it and feed it up through the little bar. And then you're going to take it and go back down over the bar like that. So this is how it should look. And then once you take it like that, then you're going to take this piece here, and it's going to go against, you're going to stitch it to this piece right here. You're not going to, this piece stays free. This is what you're going to stitch it to right here in the center like that. So what you want to do is you kind of want to pull it away from there. If you need more space, you can always free it up some more, like just by switching it. I just kind of move this around to give it some space. But since this is a nice finished edge, you don't need to go folding it again. So you've got that nice clean edge here. And then we're going to stitch and just put, you can just make a nice little box. You can rivet it if you don't want to try to stitch it. But I'm going to go ahead. I can go ahead and get this stitched. She does give you the approximate amount to do that. I'm going to go up just a little more. There we go. And then I'm just going to stitch a little, just a basic little box. And I'm going to stitch, like, start stitching where my end is over top of my, all my other stitches. So I'm basically just matching my stitching here. So you don't have, you know, doubles layers right next to each other. And then go up. And it doesn't have to be a big box, just enough to hold the strap. And if you still want to make sure everything's secure, you can always put a rivet in the middle. All right, and then I'm going to go down. This is going to be tight here, I think. There we go. Let's try it this way. This might be smarter. The buckle's in the way. There we go. Just kind of got to work with it. Or you could say you can just rivet it. There we go. All right. Clean up your threads. Make it nice and clean. You need to get rid of any little loose threads. Just get your lighter out. And it's just a little tiny box is all it is. Nothing fancy. Again, I'll probably punch and put a rivet through there later. That'll hold it maybe. Just give it a little, you know, more structure. But you won't see it. It's like that. And then there's your strap right there. And then you can just adjust it, of course, accordingly the way you want it. And then you've got your nice strap. That's it. That's how you make the strap. All right. So, like I say, it's a little different, unique way of making a strap. But there we are. All right. So I'm going to take this, put this in the thing. So, because, of course, we're not going to need this until the very end. So I'm just going to put a little band there. All right, now we're going to get our connector pieces, which are, let me find them, here we go, are these little pieces here that I've already got marked. Basically, you're going to take your connectors, you're going to do these just like you do any other side connector. Center's marked, tape in the center, fold everything to the center like that. And you're just going to do that on both pieces. So I'm going to get these all ready to go. All right, so now I've got my centers, all my pieces fold to the center. All right, there's my connectors and they're set. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some tape. I'm going to just use a 1/4 inch tape here, put through the centers. Oh, we got to make some markings. My apologies. So we're going to take the one end and we're going to make a marking where she gives you. Okay. Let's see. I'll draw a line on the wrong side from the long edges. And then place double-sided tape on the line and take off its backing. And then, where's my D-rings at? All right. So I'm going to get double-sided tape and just kind of go up the center. I'm not going to go all the way. I'm just going to go up to that line that she tells you to stop at, where she gives you that mark. Okay, then you're going to go ahead and put your D-ring on. Let me go ahead, because I think on my original, let me make sure the D-ring, this gets placed on the right way. I'm going to mark the centers. I'm going to grab my gusset, my side pieces here. Mark my centers. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure my connector is long enough. I think on my original, and this was, I had already cut this out, my strap connectors were just a tad too short, or I marked something wrong. So I just want to make sure everything is right when I do this. So I got this. Let's get the D-ring on. Fold this down. And the markings that she gives you. Okay. Whoops. This D-ring is just a little thicker than my usual D-rings. I'm not sure where these D-rings came from, but these are thick D-rings. Usually on them thinner ones, you can get by with being, there we go. So I got my D-ring on. I'm going to throw another small piece of double-sided tape so that way it holds on and it doesn't come apart. And then you're going to go and make sure it measures a specific number down. So I'm going to put this here to make sure my D-ring connector lands right there. Then you want to make sure this lines up center with the bottom of your gusset. So I'm centering it up. I got my ruler at the line where it's supposed to land at the top of the strap connector. And then line it up. I can go down just a tad more. Good, good, good. There we go. There we go. So you've got, she's got you a specific number that where this has to, where this from here to this part here, and then it should ultimately line up down here with the bottom of your gusset. I mean, I think it's just a smidgen, which is fine. I can snip that off once I get the base, but that's what you got there. Now, this is another part where you can be a little creative with your rivets. And I kind of went with it with her pattern. I typically don't add rivet decorations in mine, but I thought it would be really cute and kind of go with it, especially since this is a solid bag. So what I do is on the way I do it, she's got you doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rivets. I'm only putting total of 5 rivets on the side. Yes, a total of 5 rivets on the side. So again, you can be as creative as you want, but what I did is I went 3/4 of an inch down from the top of the connector, okay, and I put it in the center, right there, and that right there, that one holds the connector, because we are going to still sew over it, not over it, we're still going to sew, but my sewing is going to go just above that little dot that I just did. So I go 3/4 of an inch down, and then when I sew, I'm going to go right above that line, right above that dot, because that will hold this D-ring on. But then once I draw that particular dot, I'm going to go 1.5 inches down from that one, keeping it centered, 1.5 inches down, and I'm going to make another dot. And then I'm going to go 4 more dots down. That's going to give me 4 additional rivets, not counting that little one up there at the top. See, that's the center. Make sure that's centered. That needs to go over a little bit. There we go. And this is what I did with my the tester bag, this bag here. I did 3/4 of an inch down, and then I went 1.5 inches down and made 4 total, and I think that looks nice. It gives you that little bit of an accent, but to me personally, it's not overdoing it, especially since I'm not a big rivet decorator person. But I think that looks really nice on the sides like that. That's nice. To me, it's a nice, clean look. Not against anybody who does extra on rivets, but that's my personal taste. All right, so there's what I got. This is where I got my rivets. 3/4 inch, and then inch and a half, all the way, and then I've got the 4, so it'll be a total of 5 rivets going down the side. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and stitch first before I place my rivets. That way my rivets are not in the way. But I also know to be careful when I get to the top to keep that out, to keep my stitching out of that little, away from that dot, so my rivet doesn't cut through that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the top stitching around this, and then I'm gonna place my rivets, or set my rivets once I do all the top stitching, and then I'm gonna go ahead and stitch on my other one. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on my other gusset, and when I get all of that done, including rivets on the panel, I will be back. I am back. All right, there we go. These are my side gussets. Aren't these cute? That looks really neat. I really like it. All right, so you got these 2 pieces done. And now we're gonna grab our cute little tiny base. Let me get that. That's that little tiny, almost square piece. I don't think it might be actually a square. Yeah, this is a nice little cute little square. And then I'm gonna mark my centers. I mean, they should line up, but you always really should mark your centers and make sure when you place things together, go from the center out, just in case your cutting is off just the tiniest bit. So we're going to take one of your gussets and your base, put them right sides together, and then you're going to go ahead and clip those together and give them a stitch. Get my stitch length decreased, and then we're going to stitch this together at the seam allowance of the pattern. Of course, back stitch. There we go. And then you're going to top stitch on the base. But I'm going to do that once I get the other side on, so I'm only increasing and decreasing my stitch length one time. So you've got that's together, and then I'm going to grab my other gusset, place this right sides together. All right. And then stitch that on together as well. Alrighty. Threads out of the way. There we go. Got that little bit a hangover of my strap connector. I'm going to clip that only because I don't want it to interfere when it lays down. So I just don't want that little piece peeking out. So we're going to clean that little tiny piece out. All right. Now I'm going to open this up and fold both of my seams towards the base like that. And then I'm going to top stitch on, top stitch on the base at my top stitch length of 5. There we go. And get that and make that look really nice. And do that to both sides. Sorry if I hit that camera. Sometimes I'm not paying attention and I hit it accidentally. All right. And there's my base. Now my gusset is complete. I've got the whole thing together. Now at this point is we're going to add the piping to the gusset. Again, this is like the easiest piping that I've done because you're putting it right on the gusset, which is more, it's got that little bit of an angle to it, but more or less it is really easy to put on this bag. So when you do this, you're going to find your center of your whole gusset piece. I'm going to fold it this way since I've got hardware in the way. So I'm just going to clip the ends together to hold it so it doesn't flat, and then I'm just going to take it and fold it down, making sure that that matches, which is great. That means you sewed the seam allowance correctly, which everybody knows if you sew a lot, sometimes you don't always match well when you do all this. So I'm going to take this down, that matches well, and I'm going to get the center of this. So the center is now found for my whole gusset piece, okay? I'm going to grab my piping, and I'm going to grab one of my pieces of my skinny foot. I struggle with my skinny foot. I keep my center piece, and then I just change out the back foot on this machine. I don't know why I struggle. The center bar that comes with this skinny foot doesn't want to move the piece at all. I don't know why. It's probably because it's an off-brand, who knows, but I find that if I just change out this back foot, it works better for me. So let me get this on. This gives you a nice, good piping closeness. Now, right now, we're just going to baste it on. We're not actually going to sew the bag together just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and change it out now because it makes it a little easier down the road, because the next steps, we're going to attach the bag together once we get all that together. Well, we're going to go in the order of the pattern. After we attach the piping, then we're going to move to the exterior slip pocket. I forgot about that. My apologies. All right, let's find the center of our piping. Oh, real quick, how I did my piping. I've already got it prepped, but how I did it. The best way to do piping is put a piece of double-sided tape in the center. Mark your center of your piece, depending on what size they tell you to cut your piping. I think each designer has a little bit different. So depending on what the width is, find your center, put double-sided tape down the center, and then put your piping piece, whatever the width that they tell you, and set that piping piece on the double-sided tape. That will stabilize the piping and help to keep it from shifting around. And then you stitch it together like that and stitch it shut. That is the best way to do piping, I find. If you try to just stick your piping piece in there and hope it stays still as you put it on, chances are it won't. It'll shift around, especially since the piping is, of course, is a lot smaller than your actual piece there. I'm just getting my centers because we're going to measure from the center out. And she also tells you for measurements where you need to stop your piping. So I'm going to go ahead and make that measurement real quick. Let's see. Okay. Ruler. I actually put my ruler up. So I'm going to grab my pens, I put everything away. And I'm going to mark where I need to start and stop my piping. Okay. And then what you're going to do on your piping piece, you're going to make marks on your piping, on your actual piping piece as well. Okay. And then on your piping piece, you're going to do the same thing. I'm going to make marks because this is going to be our fold off point. I'll make the marks now. I'll do the snipping after I attach it just in case my piping, sometimes I think I make my piping piece a little too long. But I'm going to go ahead and make the marks. So I've got that guide that I need to where I know it's probably going to fold off at. But I'll make my snips when after I clip it. All right. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. All right, so I'm going to take my piping piece. I'm going to put the piping part towards the outside of the bag, raw edges together. I should say that's the best way of doing it. Raw edges together. Let me get my clips. I'm going to use my little metal clips. They'll hold pieces that mix it. And then I'm going to go ahead and clip it up. Again, you don't have to snip into your piping. You don't have to worry about rounded edges because you're putting it on your base you're putting it on your gusset. So I'm just doing some nice tight clipping on my piping to hold it still. I'm just going to match it up to the one side, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll I'll just fast forward through the rest of it, just in case you want to watch me fast forward. Watch me sew in a fast forward motion. Just keep your piping tight. Try not to let it sag or be loose. You just want a nice tight piping. If you really want a good lesson on piping, go to the Crafty Reporter. She has a piping lesson. She did it, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but she did a really good tutorial. That's where I learned how to do my piping, is through her, watching her do hers piping. She has a great tutorial on how to do this, but you want to keep it nice and tight. And then I'm to that line where we're told onto the vinyl, and that's where it's going to veer off like this, where you're going to start and stop. So I'm going to see where my piping, there's the line right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's the line. I'm going to take this and go at a 90 degree, and then you're going to see, I'm going to clip it on the top side, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. See how that has that little pop up there where it's got that 90 degree? I'm going to take my scissors and just snip it at an angle like this, where I'm not cutting where the piping, where the round part is. I'm cutting where the actual fold part is. See how I did that? That just gives it that angle to veer off like that. So I'm going to go ahead, put the rest of the piping on both sides of my gusset, and then baste this on my bag. Baste the gusset onto the bag. If you want to, you can cut your base where you sewed your base on at the seams. You can always cut those at a little angle to alleviate some of that bulk. I'll show you real quick what I just did. Like that. That'll help alleviate some bulk, especially since you're going to be putting piping there. All right, so let me go ahead and get this all on. And then once my piping is basted on, I will be back and show you all my piping. Real quick note on this before I start. When you do your piping, I find it easier to start stitching right on the piping, not before, because I feel like it shifts it. So I'm holding this where the line is at, where I took my clip off, holding it where the line is at, and I'm going to put my piece under the needle to where the presser foot is on the piping, and the needle is going to start on the piping, and then I'll back stitch off. But I'll go up a couple stitches and then back stitch off to hold it on. But that helps hold that piece and it doesn't shift it. So we'll go ahead and get this all basted on, and then we'll continue on. All right, there's our piping. All the piping's on the gusset right there. You go ahead, you can trim off the little wings right now. Get those trimmed off and cleaned up. Just cut them flush to your gusset. And then that way, and there you're all set there. And that's all set to go. Now at this point, she has you move on to the exterior pocket of the back panel. Now you can do that if you want. I'm going to do it in this bag because this is, we want this tutorial to reflect the pattern. So we'll go ahead and do that. But you don't have to do a back pocket. It is a small pocket. So that is completely up to you how you want to do it. But we're, like I said, we're going to do it for the tutorial. So I'm going to grab my little back slip pocket, exterior, and lining piece. We're going to put them right sides together. And then once you get that clipped right sides together, you're going to make a couple markings at the top of the little, the smiley face. So you're going to make a couple marks because you're going to start stitching here, go all the way around, and then stop here, and then leave it open here in the center. So you can turn it right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go, I don't know, about an inch to an inch and a half in. You want to make sure you leave yourself enough room to turn. That's basically what you're looking for. If you feel like you don't need a big space to turn, then by all means, you don't, you know, you can make it a little more narrow if you want. But I'm going to make the mark and then know where I'm going to do my turn. Let's see, where is, there he goes. I see him allowance here. So that's where I'm going to start and stop right there. And then this is going to be my turning hole right there. So let's go ahead and get that stitched up. Get my seam stitch length, I can't talk, my stitch length smaller. And then get this stitched up. And then once we stitch, again, we're going to go start here. We're going to go down, secure your seams, do a back stitch. And then start going around the little circle. If you got a seam guide, it's easier to follow. If you don't, you can mark your seam allowance. And that should help you when you do this. When you're going around a circle. There we go. Like I said, I just took it slow. Maybe I'll put a little snap on top of mine. We might do a snap. We'll see. Once I get it done. Like I said, I mean, the only thing with the snap, it does take up some space. I mean, when you put the snap on. But I think the snap will secure, if you put like a lipstick or something in there, that snap I think will secure that as well. All right. I'm going to grab my pinking shears. If you don't have pinking shears, you can cut some slits in here to help ease that corner and the turning. But I do like my pinking shears. Make sure though that that corner is got some it's not a pointy corner. Make sure that corner is gone no matter what you do. If you don't do this at all, just at least snip the corners. Because that, when you turn that inside out and that corner's there, it will bulk up and it won't lay very flat. Like that. And I'm just going to do a quick little snip here. I just like the way it helps the bag, the pocket lay with using the pinking shears. All right, so let's turn that in right side out. And then I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up around, and then that way when I do my hide that seam there, I know if I need to fold it in just a little extra to hide it, I will do so. I just got to get this seam to work. So I'm going to work this seam, get it all nice and pretty, and I will be right back. So there's the pocket. Like I say, it's small, but it's cute. All right, so I'm just only going to top stitch up here at the top. Just kind of be careful when you work it out that you don't lose a curve. I mean, it can lose it a little bit if you're not careful. This corner needs poked out a little more. I noticed that it's not out enough. There we go. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm just going to top stitch up here at the top. Top stitch the top. Oh, I've got this stupid... Yeah, let's change feet before I do this, because this is just going to ruin my piece, because it just doesn't like the feed very well. All right, let's do this real fast. I'm going to change out the foot, and then be right back. All right, so I've got my skinny foot changed out. I went ahead and did the top stitching on the top of my pocket here. I'll show you real quick. So there's the top stitching, and I also went ahead and put a snap on there. That was just something that I thought of that I wanted to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to place your pocket in the position measurement where she's got you to put it. And then what I did is I just put a couple pieces of masking tape to hold my pocket still while I do this. You've got, you know, if you've got your ways that you can do that, by all means, of course, put it on, you know, do it. You can use double-sided tape just in the out area where you're going to top stitch. So we're going to go ahead and sew this on. Now I am going to start right on the pocket, and I am back stitching because it's not going to show up that much on this particular piece due to my thread of the color of my thread. But if you want to, you can pull them through. Just make sure your pocket, of course, is secure when you do it. So we're going to go ahead and go around. I'm going to make sure that my tape is off when I get to it. Now this is the pocket, as I was stating, is totally, of course, something if you want to add it. You can always put just small things in here. It is a cute little addition to the exterior of the bag. Just go slow. That's always the best advice. And if you have any, you know, crazy threads, I'm keeping the threads in the back just a little bit long, not crazy long. I'm doing that, even though I did back stitch, I'm doing that so it gives less of an opportunity for the threads to pull through. I'm also going to throw a piece of double-sided tape over top of that. That's totally extra, obviously. But it helps, it makes me feel better knowing that there's like a little extra something there to try to keep them threads from pulling through. I mean, of course, it won't totally stop it. If it wants to pull through, it's going to pull through, but I just like that little extra security on the back. All right, so there's my little back pocket. That's cute. All right, now we are going to go ahead and attach the exterior, the gusset, to the bag itself. So on the gusset, remember we got the centers marked of our gusset here. And I went ahead also and marked the centers at the top of my gusset. That helps with placement of your lining, as well as, let's see, as far as the foam itself, I had mentioned about cutting out some of the foam. The foam itself at the bottom, it'll be okay as far as the gusset's concerned. It's the foam at the top that really needs to come out for the drop-in lining. So I'm not overly concerned about the foam at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and start attaching this. So when you do this, I'm going to lay this face up, and then my gusset, I'm going to take it. We're going to put them right sides together. I'm going to, my centers are marked on both of my pieces. So of course, make sure the center is marked, still marked on your exterior piece. Let me grab some of my clips here. And this is one of those bags that you may want to just go to town with your clips. I mean, go get your backup clips if you have any. You don't keep a whole lot out. Just because it's a rounded edge, you want to go ahead and clip it, you know, very nicely to help you with that curvature of the bag, and you don't have to worry about, you know, it's slipping. But this is actually quite easy to make. So I'm starting with my centers, and I'm going to throw a few clips on there to hold it steady so it doesn't move. All right, so I've got like 3 clips at the bottom, and then I'm going to turn my piece around, and then I'm going to take the top of my gusset and match it up to right here, right before it starts with my little smiley face. Now it'll probably shift a little bit down here, but it's still placed, you know, to be where it should be. I mean, as far as shifting, it may go in a little bit. So I'm going to take these pieces here. I'm matching them up. I'll show you here like what I'm doing. So they're matched up there. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a couple clips here to hold that steady. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Sewing round bags, I found, is not as difficult as I thought. It just like, I guess it was what I was just saying, just like anything else, if you take it slow, it's not as hard. Now, I'm just getting it back. It's wanting to, there we go. So I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to start going down and around. If you need to make any snips in your bottom part of your gusset where it gets that nice little curve down there at the bottom, you can do that. Make sure you stay out of your seam allowances. You just clip maybe 1/8 or a little tiny more than 1/8. I wouldn't go much more than 1/8. And I don't really think you need to go much more in this bag than 1/8. So I'm just kind of working it. And that's how I usually clip my gussets, especially when I get to those curves. I will go back and forth from each side and then just kind of ease everything in. I find that that is the best way when I have curve like this, and get it to work in where, you know, in case there's like just the tiniest bit of extra, it's always best to just kind of ease it in. So I just go back and forth. And see right now, as I'm doing this, you can see right now, I can see actually right now, that it's easing in very nicely. It's a very nicely fitted gusset. All right, whoops, I just pushed it down a little bit. There we go. The only interference my foam is when I put my clips in. But other than that, the foam is not in the way. Now, it could cause a little bit of extra bulk, possibly, but I think we'll be okay. Because I haven't done one. Let's see, like, I mean, I have not put any snips in, and I will show you how nicely this gusset fits. No snips at all in my gusset. And you guys, I mean, even though I'm putting a lot of clips in here, I mean, I probably could go more, but that's it. That's how quickly it is. And look, whoop, I put too many out, but look at that. It fits very, very nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this on. Now, if you are unsure about sewing this gusset first, as far as going the full seam allowance, by all means, do a basting stitch. Go about a little over 1/8 all the way around. then once you secure your gusset to your bag, you can go in at the full seam allowance. That's always a great idea to do that, especially if you're new to gussets and if you're just still not comfortable sewing the curved edges at the full seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this on, and then once this gets put on, we'll come right back, and then we'll take a look, because remember, you want to make sure you do your full seam allowance because you have that piping, and if you do the full seam allowance, it makes your piping not stick out, look like it's sticking out as much. So we'll take a look at that before we do the other side, but we're going to go ahead and get this sewn on, and then I will be back once this is sewn on. I'm going to go ahead and do a pause, and then I'll be back. All right, I'm back. So let's all take a look at the piping. I can see so far it looks really good just by peeking in it. Now, just a couple things. I did baste first. Typically, I just go straight for the seam allowance, but because, again, it's a rounded edge, I just wanted to take my time and make sure I did it right and make sure it turned out right. And then the second tip is, if you don't have a piping foot, I put my skinny foot back on and did so I could get very close to my piping and use the correct seam allowance. I did that. I took it very, very slow and made sure I stayed very close to the edge of the piping. Now, sometimes when I'm sewing piping, I feel like sometimes I'm right on the piping and that I am messing up. If you feel that way, just pause it. Take a peek in if you can. If you're at an angle where you can take a peek in and look to make sure that you are not on the actual piece of piping. But sometimes it feels that way when you actually aren't. But let's take a look. So let's go ahead and see what we got. I'm just going to turn it a little bit. So there is my piping. I think that looks really good. It turned out really nice. I don't want to turn the bag too much, but if you look in the bag, you can see my piping. So I really like that. This is this blue here. It's oceanic blue. It's also her Faux Real. Very, very nice color, and it's got the same great feel as the rest of the Faux Real. But anyways, all right. So I'm going to go ahead, clip this side on, and then what I'll do for this side is I will do a fast forward. I'm going to sew it and then fast forward through the adding it on. I'll do basting first. Then I will go to the full seam allowance, and I'll just fast forward through that motion so you can actually see me sewing this sewing the gusset on to the round of the bag. I didn't think you wanted me to fast forward through it twice. That's a lot. But I'm going to clip this on. This will all be put in fast forward motion. Clip it on the same manner, and then I will baste it and then go the full seam allowance. Okay. So it did push away a little bit. Again, it has a lot to do with the fact that having the other side of the bag on, it kept wanting to push away. So I am, and the thing is with piping, you can go back. It's when you have to remove, when you go too far and you got to remove, that's when you worry about seeing your stitches or the holes in your bag. So if you didn't get close enough, that's not a deal breaker. You can always go back and re-stitch and get closer. Because ultimately you are going to trim some of this seam allowance down because you have to go with a larger seam allowance for your piping. So it's not a deal breaker. I was just very, very lucky on my first side because it was just the one side. So I'm going to go back over around this part of it to make sure I got up to my gusset nicely. I mean, I can look at it and tell I'm not at a full 3/8, especially down here at the bottom when it started pushing, where my base is. But other than that, it looks really good up here and on this side as well. It's just down around that major curve of the bag. So I'm going to go back around it, and then we'll see where we're at. All right, I think I'm happy with it. Happy enough, I should say. It's not, it kept wanting to push away at the bottom. And keep in mind too, it doesn't have to be perfect. You need to be happy with it. And you know, you can keep going, and you also don't have to do piping. I just wanted to show you on the piping and to show you what, you know, realistically it's especially if you've got a stiffer bag. Now keep in mind, this is a thicker vinyl. This is got Decaville on it, so it's not a lightweight bag by all means. I mean, you can see the structure of the bag just by me sitting it down like this. So it is a thicker bag. So if you've got something softer, because I mean my other one is a cork, and so it was much easier to manipulate when I did the cork bag. I did not struggle on the cork. Or you can do a thinner, lighter weight vinyl, which would be a lot easier as well. But I'm just trying to look and see if they look okay, because this is the front of the bag. I should have done the front of the bag first, because that would have been easier, obviously, and since it's the front of the bag, it would be more pleasing. But I think I'm good with this now, because again, this is a thicker vinyl. I'm gonna get the good old let me get my, before I turn it, let me do this. Let me clip a little bit out of the top. So I'm going to clip some foam real fast that I didn't do off camera. Yes. And then I'm going to get the hair dryer and turn this. That hair dryer suggestion that people tell me all the time to do, I'm gonna tell you what, I've been doing it lately, and it's not only a hand saver, it makes turning bags so much quicker. I'm not gonna lie. And the reason I'm trimming this foam here at the top, in case you missed it at the beginning, it's because this is a drop-in, and when I fold this over with foam, it will make it puffy looking at the top, and it won't lay flat. So I'm just cleaning that up. Really, honestly, when I quilted it, I shouldn't have quilted it with the foam there, but I just lay a piece of foam under my piece and go to town. Pretty much is basically what I do. I don't, for some reason, I don't quilt without my foam on the full backing. So let me get this cleaned up. I'm going to turn it right side out, and we'll fast forward. I'll just fast forward through this part so you can see in fast motion me turning this bag. I know, because that's riveting watching experience, and I know how much you want to watch it, so we'll just fast forward through it. Look at that. There we go. Look at that. Isn't she cute? All right, so there's the, now this is the one I struggled. This is the piping I struggled with. So you can see, I mean, the bag's still got some wrinkles in it, and parts where some of the foam's at, where it's got to be, well, I didn't trim my seam allowance. That's where I didn't do. So I will go back and fix that. So you can see that my seam allowance needs cleaned up and things like that. But it doesn't look bad, even though I struggled. The back side, honestly, I kind of went a little close on the back side, but it's really hard to tell. It's at the very bottom. I know it's there because obviously I'm the one that made the bag. So there is the exterior of our bag. So our next step is to work on our, let's see, she's got you doing the interior pockets. Now in the pattern, she has you do 2 slip interior pockets. I am changing that just a tiny bit. I'm doing 1 little slip interior pocket, and I have created my own zip pocket. I do like a bag with a little bit, with the littles, even though it's a smaller one, with the zip pocket. I will give you the measurements that I cut this slip pocket piece with. But I'm only going to do 1 slip pocket, and the slip pocket on the interior is made identically to the way the exterior slip pocket is. So we won't need to have to go over that. I will just sew it. The lining slip pocket is on the piece of paper here on the floor. Give me 2 seconds. So I kind of worked with this pocket to create this size here. So the lining zip pocket is 7 1/4 inches wide and 5 inches deep, or down. 5 inches down, 7 1/4 wide. Now I do an overlay. You can do a welt zip pocket on the inside. Just make sure your inside, of course, goes within the slip pocket. But I do overlays, and my overlay is 7 1/2 inches wide and 1 1/4 inches, 7 1/2 inches long, and then 1 1/4 inches wide. And all I did is I used a zipper overlay template that I have, and then I cut the size that I wanted as a rectangle, and then I found the edges of one that I liked, and then I just took it and just laid just the edges over the sides to create that little look there. If I wanted a rounded one, I'd have just taken a rounded one and then just laid it over and then did it that way as well. But that is how I did my zipper overlay and my zipper pocket. So I will go ahead and do this real fast. obviously find the centers of your pocket. Now, keep in mind, this is a rounded bottom. You will have some corners of the zipper pocket that you can trim off. There's a couple of different ways you can do this little pocket. You can just actually, once you put it together, before you sew it shut, you can measure up, which is just what I'm going to do. Kind of measure up from where that rounded edges are, and then just go a little past that so it's not in the seam allowance. So your little zipper pocket has just a little bit of roundness on the corners. It's a zipper pocket. You're not going to see it. I think that would be actually kind of cute, honestly. But I am going to place my overlay. Let me get I didn't put my double-sided tape on the back. I just use 1/8 of an inch, especially since this is a very skinny overlay. All right, so I'm going to find my center of my overlay. Take the backing off of the top, just the top piece. I'm not going to take it off both ends, both sides yet. And then I'm going to go down. Let me get the other roller here. I'm going to go down. Let's see. There will be a upper panel on the zipper. So I'm just going to go at 1 inch down. And it makes it kind of close. But remember, you're still got about 1/2 of an inch of your overlay. So your zipper pocket technically won't start until about 1.5 inches down. So I'm going to go 1 inch down. Again, this is my numbers, because she does not have a zipper pocket, and I have to look. I'm not even sure what you put the slip pocket down at yet. I haven't looked at the pattern yet. Again, I don't remember what the originally was. So, all right. So that's where I want that. And then I'm going to remove the backing. Now we're going to sew this zipper lay on just like we sew all other zipper overlays. We're going to do top stitch the exterior of the overlay first. Let me get my big old scissors out of the way. All right, so let's top stitch this first. Oh, I forgot to change back to my, well, I'll tell you what, we should be okay. We should be. I'm not going to change my foot out just yet. We're not going to take time for that. So let's go ahead. We should be fine with this. Okay, cut your center out. As you get your center cut out, grab your zipper. My zipper is going to be, I normally just guesstimate, but I will give you a measurement once I cut it. I will tell you what I cut it at. If I can get my cart, turn back around, and get my zipper scissors. I do go a little long. So the measurement I give you makes it go past, and then I just snip off the edges. But I will give you a measurement once I get this cut off. So this zipper is 8 inches long. So I've got an 8-inch long zipper. Of course, always fray, or not fray. You don't want to fray the edges. You want to deter the frayness, if that's such a word. All right, get your tape out. Place your zipper in your window. Put your pockets on. Now, when you do it through there's 2 ways of doing zipper pockets. When you do an overlay, you can sew the zipper onto the pocket pieces first and then lay it in the window. I choose to put the zipper in the window first. I do not put my zipper pull on until I actually have sewn the bottom of it on to hold it in place and not to have that bump in my thing, my zipper. There's that. And then peel off the bottom. Sometimes you still got to fidget with it just a tiny bit. So we're going to get that. This side is not centered. So I've got it over to one side more than the other, and I need it. If I'm going to put more to one side, it's going to be the side that I'm going to install my zipper on. There we go. All right, now I'm going to grab one of my zipper pockets. I've put them aside somewhere. Let me get the rest of this out of the way. I want to put double-sided tape on the top of each of my pockets. This is not directional fabric, so it doesn't matter which way I place my pocket. Just be careful if you're using directional and you go this way, make sure that, and this is, I always do it this way when I do directional in my zipper pocket, make sure when you place your pocket like this, because that's how I sew them, you sew them on, that when you lay it down, obviously it's going in the right direction. So you want your direction to go facing down when you put this back pocket part on, the first pocket that you sew on, if that makes sense. I need to center this. I'm just centering my pocket. I'm just folding it in half and then just laying it on the center mark and then like that. All right, gonna get this sewn on, and then I will sew the bottom part on, then I'll install my zipper, and then I'll finish it out. I always pull my threads through on my zipper placket. I do keep these threads a little long, and then when I fold the piece down, I do, since this is bonded poly, I use double-sided tape to hold it down flat when I fold it down. So when I leave these threads a little long, I kind of put those threads under that double-sided tape. So you can see how it goes over just a little bit, but that's fine. We're going to trim it up a little bit. I'm going to just go, but I'm going to wait till I get the rest of the pocket on and then decide what's the best length to do that with. And that's kind of the beauty of, especially when you create your own like this, you can adjust it the way you want to. Let me get my zipper pull. Rivets. think my zipper pull, oh, grab it here. I think my zipper pull got lost since it sat here for a little bit. So I'm going to grab some zipper pulls, and then once we get back with the zipper pulls and get that installed on, then we'll clean up, we'll finish up this pocket. And then when I sew it, again, when I sew it, I'm going to just do a little rounded edge here and then a rounded up here. Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. I'll show you real fast because I'll probably go ahead and stitch it since I've got to go get a good zipper anyways. So what we're doing, see how I'm going to, outside of the seam allowance, I'm going to kind of like go like this, and I see that I'm going to probably go up a 1/2 inch away from the edge because that's completely clears it of my seam allowance. So I can just draw just kind of a line here. I'll show you here in 2 seconds what I'm doing. And I'm just going to go to that rounded edge, do little like that, and I'm going to sew just above that line. I'm going to go straight down, sew above the line, go straight across, and this is, I'm going to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance at the bottom, and then do the exact same thing and go back up. This will be, since it's a drop in, you're going to completely close up your pocket, especially since this bag wasn't designed with a pocket. So definitely you're going to clean it, you're going to sew it up, and then you're going to trim off outside of the seam allowances, and you can just go about 1/8, a little, maybe a little over 1/8 of its seam allowance, trimming it up close to about that, and that way you're completely clear of your seam allowance, and you've got an adorable, and it still makes it a good size pocket, and it's a cute little zipper pocket in a bag, and I like it. So I will get my zipper pull, go ahead and finish my overlay. We're going to start here, go up over from the top and go back down. I'll film that, and it'll just be in fast forward motion when I after I get my zipper pull on, so we'll just do that in fast forward. But that's how you do the zipper overlays. And then I'll get the stitch the pocket shut. Again, that'll all be done, it'll be recorded, we'll just have that in fast forward motion. So I'm gonna get my zipper pull back, we'll be back, and then we will finish this up and then do the slip pocket, and then we'll start putting her together. All right, we'll be back. All right, so there's the zipper pocket in the front, and then what I did, see how I did in the back, I've got it where it's curved off there on the side a little bit, and then that way it's not in my seam, a little bit in the seam allowance here. So I'm just going to trim this back a little bit. If I need to, I may raise up, move up my stitch, but I think we're good. So there you go. This will probably touch, let me check. So that's just one of the things when you custom do something. We are going to take this up a little higher, because this right here is my seam allowance from here to here. So I don't want that interfered into my seam allowance. So we're just going to go up just about 1/8 of an inch. Again, oops, I didn't backstitch that very well. Let's try it again. I don't really need to backstitch it, but I get my snips rather than them big ginormous scissors. For new snippers. All right. Let me just trim that a little bit so it doesn't interfere. There we go. Perfect. All right. So there you go. Now that we got that done, like I said, for the slip pocket, it's just like we're just going to put it right sides together, turn it right inside out, and then or right side out, I should say, and then stitch it onto the other lining. So we'll go ahead and get through that, and once we have that attached, because she gives you the measurements on this. So once I get this attached, I'll be right back, and then we will see what's next. I don't remember what's next. So as soon as I get this done, we'll check and see what's next. All right, there we go. And I pick the side. It's got that beautiful, colorful flower right there in the center. And you can't even barely tell there's a pocket there because of all the beautiful dancing flowers. All right, let's see. Our next step is the zipper placket. Let me get my goodies here. All right. Zipper placket's very easy. First, you want to get your zipper. And you want to do the we don't want to unravel almost 2.5 yards of zipper tape. That is not what we want to do. All right, so you're going to get your zipper. Now, of course, she does give you the measurement of the zipper that you want. So let me go ahead and get my zipper cut. And my zipper scissors. There they are. Sorry, I couldn't find my zipper scissors. Oops. Now my zipper. All right, so I'm making mine just a little bit longer than she calls for in the pattern. I do like a little bit of a longer zipper. And then I always adjust. So, like that. Thank you. All right, go ahead again and singe the ends. Again, this is a little longer. It will get trimmed down, but I'll still go ahead and singe it because I find that if you don't singe it, when you try to put a zipper pull on it, it makes it a little harder for me, that is. All right. You're going to do your 90-degree turn. I'm going to try to find a side that doesn't have... That's a little straighter than the other side. And I don't have one that's very straight. So let me fix my zipper a little bit. Straighten up my zipper tape a little bit. It makes it easy for me. So do my 90-degree turns. Let's see. She gives you a 1/2 inch down. I like to go 3/4 inch down. If you're familiar with the 90-degree turn, and you have your preferred markings for when you do your 90-degree, of course, go with what you want. Obviously, if hers is a 1/2 inch and you want to go 1/4 or a full inch down to mark where your turns go, you want to accommodate that in your zipper when you cut it off. You want to make sure you cut a little extra if you're going to go further than a 1/2 inch down to do your fold. Just thought I'd throw that out there because you might go in and cut it the same length and then want to do a higher turn down. I find if I try to do it too short and too narrow, I'm not very controlled with my turns. They don't, it's harder to stay turned. It's hard for me to, it seems like it's a little more difficult for me to work with it if I don't have a little bit of extra working space. I don't know. Could just be me. So we're doing the little turn downs. We got our place marked. We're doing 90 little turn downs and then 90 little. We're doing a 90-degree turn down. I'm just trying to make sure everything matches. I put these these are very, very thin pins. It's like the thinnest pins you can get. I do sew over them because I don't typically hit them because they are so thin. But when I do it, I just kind of make sure, I just hold it together just to make sure they're as even as I can. But like I say, I do not take it out. I don't do singeing or anything beforehand. I simply just sew. I just put it on there, and I just, of course, stay out of your seam allowances when you do this. And I do back stitch on it a couple. I just go back and forward on it at least twice. I might sometimes go 3, just saying. But yeah, I do at least twice. That way it holds it and everything. So there's that. And then I will trim that little piece off once once I get done. So that will get trimmed down and make it nice and even with the rest of the zipper tape. And then I do kind of singe the thread a little bit so it doesn't peek through my zipper placket. Okay, so I'm gonna just trim off those little pieces that's sticking out. It's about 1/4 of an inch. It's not too much. And I will go ahead and re-singe the edge of my zipper tape. All right, so there's that. It's all, this is, my zipper is now ready. Leave them there. All right, so now we're going to do our zipper placket. So first off, what you're going to do is you're going to put your zipper plate pieces right sides together. And then you're going to stitch on the short end here at the seam allowance she gives you. Now, you can, if you want, which is a preferred way for me, but you can cut this one if you want to use or can use exterior pieces for both the top and below the zipper placket. You can cut 2 long pieces, like double the length of this, and 2 of them, and then you would just fold it over your zipper. But we're going to show you how the pattern is written. But we're going to sew this at the seam allowance that she gives. Let me see. Oh, silly me. I'm sorry. This, I was giving you wrong directions. This is, you want 1 lining and 1 exterior. I apologize. I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm like, something's not right. And it took me a minute. All right, so we're going to put 1 lining and 1 exterior right sides together. And then you're going to stitch these at the seam allowance that she gives you. Let's see. She gets, there we go. I see it. I couldn't find it. I see where she's got the fold up line, but I didn't see where the stitch line was, and I found it. I found it. It's there. All right. Get a hold of my threads. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I am just going to angle these little corners here. That just, it mainly takes away bulk, honestly, for when you fold it over the end of your zipper. So it's, I'm just giving a little bit of an angle. And then I'm just going to press them open right now. And then I'm going to put double-sided tape along one side of this piece here. I am going to go from one end to the other. Oops, not really. I lied. We're going to, I'm so sorry. I forgot to mark. You're supposed to make a marking that she gives you on each end, on the end of the other end that you do not sew on. You do have a seam allowance to use because you're going to fold that end up to meet that line, that short end up to meet that line. So that gives you a finished edge. I'm sorry. Oh. So I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape on that little short end there. I'm going to fold the, I prefer to fold the vinyl side first to that line. And then that way, and I'm not going to fold, I personally do not fold the lining side until I put my zipper in and I'm going all the way down, even though I've got the line there and the tape's there. It's there as a guide, but to me it's a guide. But I don't fold this up until I get everything in there to make sure that this is even with that. Because sometimes I'm off a little bit. So let's go back to the tape. So I'm just going to, I've got that little bit of a guide there. So I know to start my tape about at that line. I'm going to go all the way. This time I'm going to go all the way to the other end where of the vinyl, because that end is already folded up and finished off like that. So I've got it not all the way to that end, but all the way to that end, because that's the end that's already folded in. All right, taking my zipper, and I am going to, does she tell you where to start? Some of them have you butt it right up against that seam. I'm just going to take it, let's see, does she give you, I'm sorry, let me look real fast. Yeah. I'm going to go just about 1/8 away. Let's get our tape. Let's get our backing off. And I'm only going to take it off the one side first. And then I'm going, I'm just going to go 1/8. And the reason why I'm doing that is to allow room for the zipper teeth. There's a little, it gives that little bit of a gap and space, because I do clip away the vinyl around the teeth once I get it sewn on, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And that's just my way of doing the little zipper thing here. All right, so now that I've got it on, again, it's 1/8 of an inch away from the seam, and it's all the way down, and you're going to put your teeth face down to the vinyl. Now I'm going to remove the rest of my backing, and I'm going to take my lining piece, fold it over so it's like a little sandwich. Just take and go all the way down. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing off the other short end, or the short end of my lining piece, and fold it up. And then this way I know that it is going to match exactly with my exterior piece, so I don't have lining hanging over my zipper. Even if it's a little tiny bit shorter, that's even better. That, that way you don't see it peeking through from on the top. So there you go. So this is what we got. You've got your exterior piece, your zipper, which is right sides to the exterior piece, and then you've got your lining piece, which your lining is right sides to your exterior piece. See how I got that? And then it's all sandwiched in, and then we're going to sew at the seam allowance that she gives on the side where the where you've done the where you've got the tape lined up to the edge. This is the side we're going to sew on at the seam allowance that she gives you. And I'm not changing my foot, my walking foot out. I'm just going to go ahead and sew my right on, straight on. I just got to hold my piece very still when I do it this way. And just make sure when you get to the end, don't go past the end of the zipper placket, because it will show on your zipper. So you just want to sew right to the edge and go one more stitch and not go over. If I can, oh, let's hand crank it. All right, now I am gonna back stitch. There we go. And my, oh, that didn't. So my piece, my vinyl popped up, so it didn't stitch. So I need to just go over that piece. So I'm just gonna kind of put it in backwards just to make sure that piece is caught. There we go. All right, I just had to do a couple stitches there just to make sure that that got in there. I mean, we do angle trim a little bit to cut some bulk out, but that wasn't even, it totally flipped up on me when I sewed it down. Just got caught on the feed dogs and went up. All right, so let's clean up threads, and then I will show you what I do to help alleviate bulk where your zipper teeth is, so it doesn't get all puffy and real bulky. All right, so you can see my zipper teeth right there. What I do is I go just above the zipper teeth, not up to the stitch line, but just above, right below it. Basically, there's a little thread in the way and it's kind of irritating me while I'm trying to show you this. Basically, it's about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch away from that stitch line. I'm going to cut right about an 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch away from this stitch line here. Let's draw a line. This might be a little easier. I think this is an easier way of showing it to you. Rather than use, and then we'll use the snippers to show you, point. See, I'm going to go right below. I'm going to get that piece of thread out of the way. There we go. So right below that stitch line, and which is right above where the teeth are, and then I'm going to go, like, see how that's about an 1/8 of an inch away, go down and then go back around and cut that piece. I'm cutting this piece out right here in this little rectangle, sort of rectangular square. I'm going to cut that out. That will take away some of the bulk from that. Now you'll probably, if you got all the tape on it like I do, you just kind of peel the tape back a little bit and then just very carefully cut. Now you can cut the lining as well. This lining is thin enough. I'm not worried about the lining, but if I had a two exterior to get if I had two exterior pieces that made up, as you know, the zipper placket, both sides of the zipper placket instead of a lining, I definitely would have cut away both sides. But since I'm using lining, I'm not worried about it. So, and also another tip, if you want to, you can as well cut away some of your vinyl. That does alleviate some bulk as well. Some bag designers do suggest you do that, especially if you're using a domestic. You can go in, instead of just cutting that box, you can go in and then just snip away just like that. I'll go ahead and show it on this one. I won't do it on the next one, but I'm just snipping it away. Just obviously be careful. Don't cut into your zipper. And that's what you got right there. And that, like I say, that alleviates bulk, a lot of bulk from your zipper placket. Then also what you're going to do on this corner here, you're going to go ahead and clean that corner as well. So I'm going to go in at an angle and then just cut away at an angle that little corner piece there where it's folded. So let me turn that around like that. See how it's got a little angle there? All right. The next one, I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm just going to sew it on, but that's just a bulk suggestion. You know, there's a lot of bulk in a zipper placket sometimes, and if you're not careful, it makes it really hard. So we're going to take now and then turn everything where your zipper placket now are wrong sides together. You're going to match your raw edges together. And this is a nice tiny little zipper placket. It's really cute. But when you got a cute little bag, well, you have a cute little zipper placket. So I'm just going to get the screwdriver out, pull it out as much as I can with my fingers, and then get the zipper placket and clean up that corner there to make it look nice. All right, let's see what that looks like. That doesn't look too bad. All right, now and then we're going to baste your placket. To get baste it, you're going to do like a top stitch and then baste. You're going to baste the raw edges and top stitch this part. It's all the same seam allowance. It's all the same stitch length. You just go all the way around. I always start here on the raw edge because this is what's going to get hidden in the bag, so you won't see that. So you can always do you can do your back stitch here and then go all the way around and then go back to meet it. So I'm just go ahead and do this, stitch this. Just make sure when you get to the part here that you do pull it a little bit. You don't want to like yank it to where it causes your zipper to look wavy, but you do want to kind of pull the little bit so it helps the lay a little flatter. Especially when you have a thick vinyl like this. All right, there is one side of my zipper placket. There's the top and there's the bottom. All right, so we're going to do the next one, the exact same thing. Just be mindful when you place this one on that when you put the double-sided tape on it, that you do it on the correct side, because I have got it all together, laid it out, double-sided taped it, and then realized, oops, I should have put it on this side instead of this side. Because it does make a difference. So just be, wary of that, or pay close attention to that. And I'm going to go ahead and get this sewn on, and then when we get back, we will sew this onto the lining. And I think the next step after this, after we attach it to the lining, we are ready to go. Oh. There we go. Looks so cute. Now we want to mark our centers. I mark my centers after, before if it gets separated. Let me say it this way. If it's a bag that it requires you to separate your zipper, some bags do. I mark my centers before I do any kind of separation. That way, in case for some reason this is off just the tiniest bit, like one is just the tiniest bit higher than the other, I'll just fold it over and kind of meet it in the middle, and then that will give me my center. But I'm always worried that once I separate the zipper and I try to mark the centers, and I'm marking, a center on one side that is just, even a 1/16 of an inch, it could mess where your zipper pull. Where your zipper pull meets at the top. It could mess that up and make it off center. So that's why I always do it before. All right, now let's do our zipper. I like my zipper pocket in the back. So you're going to put your zipper placket right side up on your lining piece. I like my zipper pocket in the back, so I'm going to put my zipper pull to the left, where and it's always good to, a good direction is where the zipper pull is on your zipper pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and just going to put one clip in right here, because I'm going to grab my upper lining pieces here, or lining contrast bands is how she phrases it. I'm grabbing those. You can baste on your zipper placket first if you want. If you're more comfortable doing it that way, by all means do it that way. But you want to get your centers marked. Oh, there's one other thing that I needed to do, and I will show you here in 2 seconds. On your upper lining contrast bands, you want to mark your drop down, where you're going to drop down your fold your lining over, because this is going to be the top of your bag. So you want to do your markings back here for the drop down lining. So I find my ruler, which is right here, and I'm pretty sure it is, let's see, I'm sorry, I need to double check that real quick. Let's see. There it is. Okay. My apologies, this should have already been done, but I'm going to go ahead and make some marks and then draw my, whoops, that's not, there it is. Silly, silly. I'm just going to use the curve of the other. Ooh, I don't know if it's going to work or not. Let me make a couple lines here. So let me get these marked real quick before we go on any further. I just need to make a couple little hash marks, and then I can connect them once I get a couple in here. I can freehand it. So let me get both of these pieces marked, so I have my drop down line, and then we'll get back to this. All right, there we go. So I've got them marked. Both sides, both of them are marked. Let's go ahead, while we got this other piece in our hand, let's get our centers marked on this one as well. All right. So back to our lining. Zipper placket face up, zipper pull. If you're on the back, I start with the back, so the zipper pull will be to the left. Face up, and then grab your upper contrast band, turn it right sides together with the zipper placket, and then go ahead and clip out. I always start from the center and go out. I may have already said that. I apologize if I repeated that, which I do repeat a lot. I know that. I wish I could stop repeating myself in my videos, but whenever I try to make myself conscious of the fact that I'm doing that, then I just trudge along, and then boop, it's gone. I forget not to repeat myself. Anyway, all right, so get this, and then I'm going to sew this on at our regular seam allowance. Yep. I got a page back. Yeah, we're going to sew this at our regular seam allowance all together. Again, you can base the zipper placket on first if you're more comfortable doing it that way. I did do that at first when I first started doing zipper plackets. That's how I did it until I got a little more comfortable sewing these on. And remember that, first of all, my zipper pulls in the way. And number two, you've got a ridge. So if you need to put something under your walking or your foot of your machine to make sure it picks up over that, so it doesn't scoot it, you can do that as well. Now what you're going to do is you're going to fold up the upper band and the placket, and you're going to top stitch under the placket on the lining piece. So that holds it all up. And it's a top stitch, so you're going 1/8 of an inch from that seam, and a, top stitch length, stitch length. All right, so there's that. There's your back of your bag there. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side, except I can keep it. There's enough clearance. There should be enough clearance. I just got to watch these little guys here at the top. I shouldn't need to separate this. So I'm going to go ahead and put this other side together. And then when we come back, we will assemble the lining pieces onto the gusset. And I think that's it. That's the last step we got to do, because we already did the strap and everything. So yeah, we got strap done. So we're all ready to finish up the bag. There we go. So there is our lining piece with our little zipper placket and everything. So, oh, I forgot. There's one more thing that we have to do before we start assembling. The gusset. You need to grab, there are 2 small upper contrast pieces. It's the letter H piece. These go on the upper part of your gusset, because this is what will show. This was what will show at the top of your bag, where your gusset or where your top of your bag meets your lining. This is where it will go up here, so it looks nice and finished on the inside of your bag. So we'll go ahead and get these sewn on. We're going to do the exact same thing. Stitch them on, fold them up, and then we're going to top stitch on the lining piece here, on the actual lining piece. Top stitch on that. I almost forgot about this until I looked at it, and I'm like, wait a minute, something doesn't look right. We're going to stitch this and then top stitch it up. Let me get this to the right seam allowance. I am not at a top stitch right now. I got top stitch on the brain, and I started to sew it at the wrong seam allowance. All right, so this is our gusset, like that. Okay, I'm going to mark my centers. If you want to, just so you know, if you want, you can trim these little corners to get rid of some of that bulk like that. That's always a good way to clean out some of that bulk on these types of things, especially if you're using a domestic or a lightweight or lighter weight machine. You always can go in and trim out some of the seams allowances away from the edges there. All right, now let's go ahead and find our center. I'm going to find the center of my gusset as well as the center of the top of my gusset. That will help me when I put this, when I drop the lining in, it'll help me center it out with my the rest of my bag. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the centers up here as well. And I don't know if I've mentioned, but I just take the tiniest little snip to find my gusset. Some people do just mark it, but I just do a tiny snip, and even a tiny snip, you get about a good, it doesn't look like you're getting much out of it, but when you open it up, you're like, oh, I snipped that just a little too big. So just take it this tiniest snip as you can. All right, so now we're going to start assembling this. We can do this one of 2 ways. We're going to separate it. All right, I'm going to unzip this, and it makes it much easier to do. All right, now because we're doing lining, and lining is not as stiff or as heavy as obviously as the exterior. So your gusset is going to be, usually it is a little more, what do I want to say? It's usually a little more baggy. So you just got to be careful when you start clipping this together. I'm going to get my zipper out of the way. The little zipper tail wants to get in my way. So I'm going to get a bigger clip so I don't mess with my zipper teeth. And just kind of clip that out of the way. If I can get hold of it. There we go. All right. So I start at the centers like I always do. I start at the centers, but except for sewing, going straight to the top, I'm going to match where my upper contrast lining and my lining itself, I'm going to match these pieces up like that first. So that way they are matched when the bag is put together, and you can see that they're not, so they're not uneven. Because this is what's going to give you that finished look on the inside. I'm going to clip it over on this side of it because that's right at the top. All right, and then I'm going to work up and clip on up to the top. And it should match. There might be a little tiny, but you can work that in. So there's that. So I've got that all clipped up there. I'm going to clip this side. And again, I'm going to go all the way around, putting my gusset on my lining, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other side of my lining. And I do believe, let me read real fast. Yes, once you start sewing at the regular seam allowance here, okay, but what you're going to do, you're going to increase your seam allowance and pay close attention to the seam allowance, because you start at a different seam allowance than you sew the whole bag together. You're gonna start at one seam allowance here, and then you're going to increase it before you get to this part. So you're going to go about an inch down, go to the bigger seam allowance that she gives you, and then go all the way back around. And then when you get back to this side, approximately an inch, maybe a little more than an inch, go back in, go back in and make that, or I should say, go back in this way or go out, and then go back to the seam allowance that she tells you. That's very important, because if you don't, you could end up with a baggy bottom bag, a baggy lining of a bag, or not a very tight fitting lining. It makes it much nicer looking. So I'm gonna get this clipped to get it sewn on, and then I'm gonna get the other gusset sewn on as well. And then when I have it completely put together, the whole lining together, I will be back with all of it, and then we'll get her finished up. All right, seam allowance is trimmed. Everything looks good. Also, I didn't do it on this bag, but I'll be okay, only because I'm going to use these as guides. But you also want to do that marking where you're going to do your fold down. You want to do it on your gussets as well, unless you're comfortable when you start folding down the other sides that you're okay, that this will be not marked and you know where you're going. But other than that, I definitely would really mark it. All right, so now what you're going to do is you are going to go ahead and get your double-sided tape. I prefer 1/4 inch for drop-down linings. It just holds it so much better. So I'm just going in, make sure you open your seam allowances up, because they will meet with the exterior of your bag. So you'll have that extra bulk, so you just want to be careful to eliminate it by opening your seams up at those gussets. Just go around, you just kind of go around the curve and get all that taped up. I'm going to tape this up, finish this taping, and then I'm going to put the tape on the exterior. I haven't done that part yet. I'm going to get everything taped up, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to do once everything's taped up. I am going to fold my seams down to meet the line. So you're going to fold it to meet the line that you've marked on your bag. And then on both your lining and your exterior, get all of that folded down. I'll start this and I'll show you real quick. And then we'll just fast forward through all of it until ready to top stitch. If I can get the double-sided tape separated, the backing from the tape separated. Okay, so we're all separated there. So basically all I'm going to do is fold this down. Let me cut some of that bulk out of the center here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to fold this down to meet that line. Like that. I do typically, even though there's double-sided tape there, I do put clips where the seams are because they almost always pop up because of the thickness. So I'm going to do that, and then you're just going to go all the way around like that. Just go down and around. If you need to, when you get into that little curve, if you need to, just put tiny little snips in it. Very, very small snips. Again, that's one of those things where it alleviates that stress on that curve because you're folding down a curve, and it'll just help work it into that curve like that. See how it's, and it just separates. I'll show a close-up here. Let me just fold this real quick, and then I'll show you a close-up to show you what I'm referring to, and you can see the snips. See, like that. Boop. And then I've got this little tiny snips, and that just, again, alleviates the pressure. So when I fold it down, going into that curve, and it just kind of, just barely, but it just expands it just enough. And if you think about all the tiny little snips and there's tiny little gaps, you can equal that up and makes one bigger gap. So that's kind of what I'm referring to. So I'm going to get this all done, and then when all of this is, everything's folded down and ready to go, we'll drop in our lining and we'll do the top stitch and we'll show it off. Whoops, sorry about that. There, we got it. All right. So the lining, it's folded down on the lining, and my exterior is all folded down and ready to go. Now, there's two ways to go about sewing a bag with a nice, narrow little top like this. If you got a cylinder arm, you're golden. You can sew it very easily. Well, not very easily, but you can sew it easily with the cylinder arm because it's got such a narrow opening. It'll make it obviously a lot easier when you're not trying to sew with, like, on a flatbed. If you have a flatbed like me and you can need to sew it, you can either, and you want your top stitching to be the top thread on the machine and not the bobbin thread, you will want to not turn this right side out. You would leave it inside out, and then you would just put your lining around the bag. I find that, and then turn your lining right side out, put it on the bag. I find that a little difficult because, number one, linings, the bottom part of your linings are typically smaller than the bag itself, and it makes it really hard to keep your pieces lined and stitched together. If you're like me, you set your tension the best you can on your bobbin thread. My front of my bag, my back. This is my back, so I'm going to drop this in and then clip it up, match my centers and all that fun stuff, and get it all clipped in. And I'm going to match my centers and clip it, but if you need to adjust just a tiny bit to just make up, you know, your seams line up, you can always work with that. I know sometimes it may be a least little bit off, but you can always work with that. So I'm just kind of working it in here, holding that together. Got my little sides marked here. So let me clip that and then mark my center here. Whoops, that's not my center. There it is. I was mistaking one of my little snips for a center. All right, let's mark that. And then let's get this center marked. Get that clipped. There we go. And then over here. And then we're just going to clip all around it. And then we'll do a beginning top stitch in slow motion, but then we'll finish it out in fast motion. Okay, so you will notice at this point that there's going to be a cut made in the video. When I did my lining, the seam allowance wasn't quite right, so which was causing bulkiness in between here and here. It was puckering, and I knew once I started doing it, it would not look right. It would cause, you know, a pucker and or like a fold over of the vinyl. Obviously we don't want that, so I did take the lining out, restitched some of my seams to increase the seam allowance at the top to make it fit better. So that's where we're at. We're going to top stitch. Going to start in an inconspicuous spot. I will back stitch instead of pulling my threads through. But yeah, we're going to get started, and then just kind of manhandle the bag to get it to fit in because of this narrow little opening. And these kind of really, honestly, as I keep saying, go slow. I mean, it's you do not want your final top stitching to ruin your bag. Trust me. I have one where I had it all done. It's a gorgeous bag, and then I went to top stitch it and it ruined it. I know how to fix it. I just haven't done it yet. So, but you don't want to have to go through all of that and like sit on the shelf for a year thinking of how to fix it. All right, so let me get my screwdriver to hold this vinyl down. Get my threads. Now let's back stitch. Okay. All right, there she is, guys. Now, we'll notice and fast forward that I did struggle. Now, the main reason I struggled and I had to stop and restart is when I had the thing up against the thread. As the thread was going up and down, my needle was clipping my thread, and it caused it to shred a little bit. Because again, this is bonded poly thread, or polyester blend thread, so it's easy to shred if you're not careful. So I had that little bit of an issue. Other than that, it's a tight fit, guys. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's tight. But if you work with it and just go very slow, you can get through it. This is the end. Let's go ahead and get the strap on it. Look at it. I'm going to do, this is the side I want. I'll show it to you in full, in all its glory. Such a cute little bag. I'll put, also, you do cut a small, and I'm not going to do it on this bag. I'm going to actually do a zipper end. But you do cut a little piece to put over it to be your zipper end if you want to do that. I am not really good about sewing these on. I'm not going to lie. Zipper ends, we're not friends. I always get it wonky. I sew off of it. And it is better for me to just put a zipper end on it. There are a couple extra bucks. But I like the looks of it better. And then I can just, you know, put a little zipper end on here and it'll poke out just a tad bit. But it'll work for me opening the bag. So I'm going to put a clippy here for now. So, because we'll open it up and look at it. But let me raise the camera up. There we go. And there she is. Look at this cute little bag. I love it. Let me get my bench out of the way so I don't slip and fall. I have a death trap here in my little space right now. I'm going through some fabric, some of my cottons and stuff. But anyway, so there's a strap. Let's loosen it up a little bit. Make it a cute little crossbody. Now, I don't have it loosened all the way, but there you go. And you could do, and I don't remember if I told you this, you could do a webbing. Again, I did it in the video, in the tutorial to just show you how it's done. But isn't that so cute? Of course, that blue looks really nice with my purple, right? But that's adorable. So, there it is. This is the Orla Crossbody by Bloom & Needle Patterns. Go get your pattern today. It is an absolutely adorable bag. It's not really that long of a sew. It takes longer when you do a tutorial because you're explaining things. But that's really cute. So go get you one today. And yeah, I love it. If you aren't a subscriber and you found me, please go ahead and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you like the video. And give me a comment. Let me know what you liked about the video, what you didn't like about the video. I do want to try to improve my videos. I know I say the word 1,000 times. It's one of those things where I try to not repeat myself, but then I catch myself doing it again. So, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.